Hello, 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 and welcome. I'm so excited that you're here for part two of this workshop this week. It's going to be a great session. I have a lot planned to share with you, and we're going to cover a lot of ground today. So if you're watching this as a recording, which a lot of you do, hundreds of you do, you can skip through the, first 30, 60, 90 seconds as people are coming in to the session, and no worries. Glad you're here. If you're live, glad you're here live. If you are here live, put in the comments where you are. Love to see where you're from. Love to see who's returning for repeat sessions. So don't hesitate to put that in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, it'll all flow through. If you're on YouTube, love to have you on YouTube. Just can't comment over there. But anytime you leave comments, know that I'll see all the comments after the show, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you put in the comments. So as we're working along, put your questions in the comments, and just if there's something that you want to know more about, I'm here to answer that for you. I'm Sam Silverstein. I am the author of 10 books on accountability, organizational culture, and personal development. And I've been working with leaders around the world, helping coach them and their teams to not only build a more effective and higher performance life, but to build a more effective and higher performance organization. And that's what we're talking about in this Pivot Your Life workshop this week. We're looking at what is the mindset that we need to have if we're going to grow to be the best that we can be. And the goal is always to be better. That's it. No matter where we are, the goal is to get better, because if we get better and we can help the people around us get better, then we're going to build a better life. We will build a better organization. And that's what we're going to be working on. In this video, we're going to talk about eliminating these time-wasting distractions, things that control your focus and just slow you down. And I'm going to help you figure out how to regain focus on what you need to be focusing on so that you're able to move faster and move faster in the direction that you should be going. Because the last thing you want to do is push on the accelerator going towards a cliff, right? I mean, we need to know the direction that we want to be going in. And, it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking that other people and events in the world around us control our life. And I'm not going to say that they don't have an impact, but they do not control our life. And this is a false assumption that I'm going to help you not fall into that trap. I know I've fallen into that trap before, and we want to move past that. We have more control. And it's not that there aren't things going on around us, but when we know how to control what our focus is, where our focus is, then what happens is we take back control. We're able to move quicker, and we're able to move in the direction that we want to be moving in. Okay, so as you join me here today, put in the comments where you are. Love to see where you're coming in from. Love to see who's here, who's watching. Go on. Tell the world that you're spending a little time this afternoon with Sam Silverstein. You're talking about pivoting your life, gaining control in your life and your business. Put that in the comments, and love to see who all is here today. Okay, here we go. We're going to bust this myth, and we are going to look at exactly what we need to be doing to take control back in our life, both personally and professionally. And that's why this whole workshop this week is all set up to talk about pivot. Now, remember, pivoting is not about changing what we do. We hear the word pivot a lot today, and people are talking about, I got to pivot what I'm doing. I got to pivot my business. I think they're missing it. I really think that they are missing it. And I think that we have a certain clarity here that's going to work well for you. And that is simply this. If things aren't going the way we want, or they aren't going fast enough in the direction that we want, many times we think that we just need to work harder. We think that we just need to do more of what we're already doing. Or sometimes we think that, I need to do things differently. And it's really not about doing, it's about thinking. It's how changing the way we think. It's a pivot in the way that we think that's going to yield these long-term results that we're going after. Because if you change what you do, you'll always go back to old habits unless you change what you think. And once we change what we think, then what happens is we'll change what we'll do, and we'll do that on a permanent basis. So, Lesotho, holy cow. Hello to Africa. You know what? Phoebe, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And just want you to know, wow, coming in from YouTube. So I guess you can post your comments over there. Let me tell you, I have been went up a very, very rocky road to get into your country, and had a beverage at supposedly the highest bar on the continent of Africa, probably in your backyard. So I have been there, and it was truly a pleasure. So welcome. Glad to have you here. All right, let's move forward. And, I always like to start out here. What is accountability? We need to nail this, because it's only when we nail it that we can help others around us. Accountability is keeping our commitments to people. That's it. It's keeping our commitments to people. And when we keep our commitments to people, then what happens is we are building a relationship, and that relationship inspires accountability in the people around us. And remember, a commitment is no matter what. That's it. No matter what. There's no gray area. There's no middle ground. It's yes or no. I am or I'm not. Remember, yesterday we talked about tactical commitments and relational commitments, and it's the relational commitments that build up this fabric between people and inspire people around us to want to be accountable. So, all right. Now, we talked about the 3 big questions. That's what we're covering this week. Yesterday we covered question 1, which is, what do I believe? And today we're going to move on to question number 2. And question number 2 of the 3 big questions is, what do you focus on? What do you focus on? And this is really critical, because this is going to, I'm telling you, this is going to take you in the direction that you want to be going. And this is what's going to accelerate your pace in going in that direction. Focus is critical, and we're distracted all the time. And these distractions can be major. I've run for years. So those of you that know me know that that's my passion. And as a marathon runner, I would be putting on a lot of miles, kilometers all the time, and get up early in the morning. And usually once October came around, I was up before the sun every day. We would get out there, we would put our 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 miles on early, and then get into work. And so we're running down the road on the left side facing traffic, and inevitably a car would come over a hill, and it's dark out, and they'd have their lights on. And that car, that'd be the only car on the road. And my running partner, Jay, and I would be running, and we'd be the only ones on the road. And for some reason, with all that road there, the car would still veer towards us. And it's like we didn't know if we were going to have to jump in the ditch or what was going to happen. But after it veered towards us for what seemed like an eternity, it would then veer back and give us plenty of room, and everything was fine. And we never had to jump in the ditch. So what was going on? What was going on? Was the guy trying to scare us? Was the guy trying to drive us nuts? No, not at all. What happened was his lights picked us up. And as soon as his lights picked us up, his eyes picked us up. And as the head goes, the body flows. And so as he tilted his head to see us off to the side, he would steer his car off in that direction. And that's what would happen. His focus would shift to us. The car would shift to us. Well, it's the same way in life. It's the same way in business. Whatever the shiny object that grabs our attention and we turn our focus to that, then what happens is we're going in that direction. If you lead a team, as soon as your attention is drawn over here, the entire team's attention is drawn over there. And now your focus has become their focus. And if the focus is on the wrong thing, then In that case, the entire team is moving in that direction. Now, that can be a work team. That could be your home team, your family. It could be the community. And so your focus is critical, not just for you, not just for me, but for all the people around us that we interact with. I once had the opportunity to sit down with a CEO of a business that I was case studying, and their results were off the charts. They were absolutely amazing. And he told me over the interview, he says, I don't look at the competitors' numbers. I don't look at market research. I don't really care what my competition is doing. And it caught me at that point. How fascinating. He doesn't really care what his competition is doing. Now, the reason is because that's not his focus. His focus is on what matters most to him. So let's go to the board and let's talk about focus, and let's talk about how focus comes into our life, how focus comes into our business. And I want to step you through some things here and just let me turn it on. So here, what the second big question is, what do you focus on? That's the second big question. There we go. What do you focus on? And this is critical. Okay, so what I want you thinking about is that, yesterday we talked about values. Today we're talking about focus. The big question yesterday, what do you believe? Today, the question is, what do you focus on? Now, these are two totally different questions, but they play out totally different. You see, when it comes down to your beliefs, your values, your purpose, your mission, all of that work, you have control over that from the standpoint of you get to build that up. You have choices. There's flexibility. You choose what your values are. I'm not choosing what your values are. When it comes to focus, you either focus on what you control or you focus on what you can't control, and there is no middle ground. And the fact is, we need to focus on what we can control, and that's non-negotiable. There is no play area in there. So what do you focus on? There are those things you can control. Or do you focus on what you cannot control? So what happens when you focus on what you cannot control? Well, what happens is we start looking at things we cannot control, so we come up with excuses. Great, the economy's terrible. My business is off. Well, that's an excuse. And you say, but Sam, the economy really is bad. And I'm just making this up. Well, yeah, it's really bad, but what can you control? Can you control the economy? Well, no. Then I don't want to hear about that. I want to know what you can control. What you can control in this situation is, well, you can control how many sales calls if you're in sales. So you can't control the economy, and if you focus on that, you're going to end up with excuses. If you focus on what you can control, then you can make decisions. When you make excuses, you get bogged down. I mean, you come to a screeching halt. Well, the economy's bad. Business is off. I'll go play golf. You're not motivated. You're not innovating. You're not coming up with the ideas that you need to move forward. When your focus is back on what you can control, well, then all of a sudden you put your brain to work. And then you come up with those ideas. So when you focus on what you can't control, you come up with excuses. And that stops you in your tracks. And not only that, it brings fear. What if this happens? What if that? So you're magnifying the fear in your life. And what does fear do? Fear stops you. So we got two things here that just stop us. Now, think about this. The competition's moving forward. We're stopped. Who's going to win in that scenario? That's not going to play out really well. So we don't want to focus on what we cannot control. We want to focus on what we can control. So now, when it comes to control, there's four things. There are those things that you can control. And our job is to take the time and think about what those are. Because when we come up with a list of things that we can control, then what happens is we don't stop. We make decisions and we move forward. So with control, there are 4 areas we need to know about. 1, what can you control? 2, things you can't control. Remember, so we just have to stay away. You can't control the weather. If you're a farmer, you cannot control the weather. What can you control? Well, you can control the number of hours you work a day. You can control how early you plow your fields. You can control the type of seed you put down. You can control the type of fertilizer you put down. There are a lot of things that are in your control. There are certain things that are out of your control. But the fact that they're out of your control means if you spend as much as 1 minute worrying about it, it just stops you. Okay, so what's in your, can you control what you can't control? 3, there are things that we try to control. Now, the reason that this is bad is because we're spending time trying to control something that we really can't control. It's a waste of time. So an example, we try to control people with money. I see this all the time in business where I'm going to call them leaders, but you know how I feel about this. They're probably not really accountable leaders, but they try to control people through money, pay them a little bit more, get them to do this. So they're trying to manipulate or control those people. And that really doesn't work. And then number 4, there are things that are out of control. And when something is out of control, well, you know, what would be out of control? Well, sometimes in a business, your inventory is out of control. You have way too much inventory. I had a conversation with my publisher today, and with all this going on in the pandemic, book sales aren't exactly what they used to be. Inventory is too high in their warehouse. They need to clear out books. Inventory is out of control. I don't know, maybe the bedroom of a 13-year-old boy. It's out of control. These things are out of control. What do? Well, you get them back in control. You get them back in control. And so just because it's out of control doesn't mean it has to be out of control. So when you look at things and you see what you can control, what you can't control, what you try to control, and you eliminate this, and what's out of control, you get it back in control, then what happens is you're focusing on those things that are going to make a positive difference in your life and in your business, because you're making decisions, you're looking at options, and you're taking action only on those things that you can control. Now, when it comes to control, there's something else that really is important, and that's our attitude. Now, our attitude determines so much, because if our attitude is off, we're off. And that's also something that literally is within our control. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book in Search of Meaning, I mean, he nailed it in that book when he said the last, and I'm paraphrasing, the last of our choices in life is what we choose to believe, what we choose to think about, our attitude. And so we do have control over that. And this is critical. It's like you're driving down the street and somebody cuts you off. What do? Well, do you get angry? Do you get mad? What emotion is coming out? Because in that moment, you're losing control. When that happens, you're losing control of your attitude. And once you lose control of your attitude, it changes everything about you. It changes the way you think. It changes how you interact with people. It changes the decisions you make. And so when it comes to this, when it comes to attitude, what I want you thinking about is choice points. And choice points deal with the ability to see a situation and then make a decision on how you want to react, the character that you want to bring out in that situation. And you recognize this choice point before or as it's happening. They say hindsight's 20/20. I wish I didn't get ticked off and yell at that driver when he went by. I wish I didn't make any gestures that I shouldn't have been making. That's all 20/20. The key is, can we see it on the front end? Can we see it going in? Because that's when we want to see what that choice point is. Okay, so attitudes and choice points. this is really important. And the question is, when you define your character, when you look at those characteristics that define who you are, that I look at that define myself, what are they? What are they? What do you want them to be? Patience, loving kindness, caring for people. So in that example of, in that moment when that person cuts you off in the car, how are you reacting? And that's a choice point. And we have a choice of how to react. You see, in that situation, we don't know what's going on with the driver of that car. Are they trying to get to the hospital because someone in the car is sick, or they're trying to get to a loved one who has an emergency situation? We don't know the story. And so why prejudge? Why react? I want to live with patience. Now, does that mean that I'm always patient? Well, my wife would tell you otherwise, but she'll also tell you that's something that I work on and that I'm trying to be better at. And Renee knows that I'm trying to be better at, and she helps me. That's why she's an accountability partner. She wants to help me be my best because I've asked her to help me be my best. And that's an important part of that relationship. So what are the choice points that you see on a daily basis? The goal is to be able to notice these choice points as they're happening in real time and not see them afterwards. Now, the reality is when we start down this journey, when we're looking to pivot our life, pivot our business, we'll start noticing choice points probably after we've reacted. And once you've been doing this for a while, hopefully with what I'm teaching you, then you'll notice them as they're happening, and then you'll be able to choose how to react in that situation. When you're in a meeting and you're just talking, monopolize that meeting, there's a choice point. Are you taking up too much space? Do you need to show respect for other people? Do you need to be listening more? These are all characteristics that we want to be aware of as they're happening so that we can react. This goes towards being our best self. So, let's see, before we go any further, are there any questions that people have at this point? If you have any questions, then this is certainly the time to bring them up. And let's see here. One of the questions that came in, if I cannot control people, what happens when I do have to work with someone who wants to do things differently than me? Yes. You cannot control people. This is correct. Well, we have to learn to get along with people. Just because they want to do something differently doesn't mean that it's wrong. Our way isn't always the right way. And so it's about building relationships and building understanding. And then when you do that, then what happens is that you have the ability to find that common ground. And when you do that, then there's appreciation. Now, if you're the leader, you want to hear what people say, and you want them to believe that you're listening and that you're taking their ideas into consideration. So it's certainly important to do that. Another question that came in: how can I live my values if I don't have control over all situations? Okay, so yeah, I think I know where you're going with this one. Here's the thing. It's imperative that when we look at a situation, no, we do not have control over the situation. What do we control? We control how we react, and we know what our values are. And so our values tell us literally how to react to the situation. The events that happen in our life, we don't necessarily dictate the events, but we can dictate our reactions. And that's the whole key of what we were talking about today. We cannot choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we react to it. So that question is right on target with that. And then the last question that I'm seeing right now, how do I keep from getting frustrated when other people around me are not performing at the same level I am? Everyone has their different strengths. And I think as a leader, it's incumbent upon us to look for the strengths of the people around us and then celebrate those strengths. And where they need help improving, help them improve. Now, there are many times that the people that we are working with on teams, they don't report to us. And so we're stuck with working with whoever it is that we're assigned to work with many times. And I think in that situation, just remember that you get to control what your attitude is. You get to control how you react. And so take a deep breath, get to know the other person. And when you get to know the other person better, then what happens is many times you find out why they do what they do. And you might be able to be of service to them and help them in their life. And in doing so, then they might actually end up performing differently in that team environment. What are some of the techniques that you use to control your attitude? I appreciate that question. Thank you. Well, here's what I do. And it goes back to what we talked about today. Because there are times when all of a sudden, I feel my blood pressure going up because of something that's going on, something that's frustrating. And that's when I've developed a habit of stepping back. I want to notice that choice point, and I want to ask myself a very important question. What can I control in this situation? What can I control in this situation? Well, I can't control this. I can't control this. Oh, I can control my effort. I can control how much preparation I do. I can control, there's so many things that are in my control. And so the technique I would encourage you is in any situation, ask yourself, what can you control in that situation? And let that dictate your response. Because here's what I know to be true. Once you're working on something that you can control, rather than focusing on something that you cannot control, then your energy level is going to change, endorphins are released, and your attitude is going to improve greatly. If we're focused on things that we can't control, then we're going to start grumbling, griping, complaining, and it's going to be a spiral that pulls us down. If we focus on those things that we can control, then it's a spiral that pulls us up. And we do that by in the moment. And boy, I'd love to know how to pronounce your name. Naslis. Boy, that's got to be a beautiful name. I'm sorry that I'm butchering it. If you want to put in the comments phonetically how it's spelled, I would love to know how to pronounce your name so the next time I get it right. Great question. So just develop a habit of asking the question of, what can I control in this situation? And then the things that you can't control, push them aside and then focus on what you can control. And even if it's only something very minor inside of a major situation, focus on that, make your best decisions and move forward. Okay. In the comments, here's what I'd love for you to do, especially, whether you're live or, is a good chance that you're seeing this in a recording because we have so many people that can't see it when we're live. They see it in the recording. Here's what I want you to think about. What would your life look like a year from now if you took what we talked about today, which is focusing on what you can control versus what you can't control, and using that to maintain the right attitude? What would your life look like a year from now if you implemented that? Put it in the comments. I want other people to see what it is that you're writing in those comments so we can learn from each other. And then I also want you to think about joining me on Friday, because on Friday we're going to at 3:00 Eastern time that we are going to we're going to have another live session. We're going to answer our big question number 3. So Friday is going to be really important, and we're going to talk about being a force of nature through your commitments, how to take your commitments and use them to create a powerful force that is going to propel you forward. So what I would like to encourage, and there we go, Naklisi. Lol, laugh, L. Yeah. I don't think the LOL on the end is part of the name. Okay. Naklisi. Thank you. Naglis. Very nice. I like that. I appreciate that. Look, here's what it comes down to. Big question number 2. What do you focus on? What do you focus on? There's things that you can control, things that you cannot control, things that we try to control, and things that are out of control. And when we get the things that are out of control back into control, and when we focus on what we can control, then what happens is we stop making excuses. We eliminate fear in our life. We're looking at those things that we can control. We're making decisions, and that propels us forward. That's a positive place to be. Always ask yourself in any situation, what is it that I can control? And when you come up with the answer to that, then work hard and create ideas around that area, and you're going to see an amazing result. I want you to know I appreciate all of you being here today. We're building up towards Sunday, because on Sunday we are going to open registration on the Pivot course. And this is really important because registration is only going to be open for 5 days. And this is the only time this year that we're going to be offering the Pivot course. And I want you with me in there. And you want to make sure that you get the information when it opens up. If you haven't already, if you're not on the list, go to mypivotlife.com, put your name and email down, and you will get notified the second that registration opens up on Pivot. It's going to be a powerful course. I would love to see you there. I'd love to have you with me. But in the meantime, stay well, take care. I'll see you Friday, 3:00 Eastern, and we're going to go into big question number 3. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.